In the year 2390, the solar system looked peaceful from a distance. The planets moved in silence, circling the sun like dancers that never grew tired. Space stations floated in quiet orbits. Trade ships moved from Mars to Jupiter without much trouble. But behind this calm, something important was happening. Something secret, on a small asteroid deep inside the asteroid belt. A group of humans worked day and night. They were not building another ship or station. They were building a weapon, one that had never been used before, one that no other species in the galaxy believed was possible. This weapon was called the Lance. It was not shaped like a gun or a cannon. It stretched across the entire body of the asteroid, with long magnetic rails hidden under rock and metal. It had taken 15 years to build. Only a few people on Earth knew about it. Even fewer knew why it was built. Commander Roan stood in the control room near the center of the asteroid. He was a quiet man with sharp eyes. He had spent most of his life in space. Now, he was in charge of something that could change the future of humanity. A young engineer named Juno walked in, holding a tablet. "Final checks are complete," she said. "We are ready to fire." Roan nodded. He did not smile. "Has the trajectory been cleared?" "Yes," Juno replied. "Empty space. No ships, no stations, not even a dust cloud. The test zone is clean." Roan looked at the large screen in front of him. It showed the Railgun's firing path, a straight line stretching across millions of kilometers. This was not a battle. It was only a test, a chance to see if the Lance worked. But deep inside, Roan knew this was more than that. Humanity had always been seen as a small player in the galaxy. Other alien empires saw humans as clever, but not dangerous. The Yllari called them fast learners. The Monthics said they were good builders. The Drine often ignored them completely. None of them saw humans as a threat. That was about to change. Roan gave the order. "Begin countdown." Inside the asteroid, giant machines hummed to life. Power flowed through long magnetic rails. The projectile, a dense rod made of tungsten and carbon, locked into place. It was simple, with no fuel or engine. It did not need one. The countdown reached 0. A deep sound filled the control room as the magnetic coils fired in perfect order. The projectile flew forward, faster than anything man-made had ever moved before. It left no light, no explosion, only force. The Lance had fired. A few seconds later, the screen showed a small mark where the projectile had passed through the test zone. It had hit the target, a metal plate floating in deep space, and torn through it like paper. The sensors recorded the impact. The force had been enough to destroy a small moon. Roan stared at the data. "Success," he said quietly. Juno smiled. The rest of the crew cheered, but only for a moment, because something unexpected had happened. The projectile had not only hit the target, it had also passed through a small alien ship that was near the edge of the zone. The ship had not responded to the warnings sent out before the test. Now, it was gone, cut in half by the invisible shot. Silence returned to the control room. "Was that ship inside the safe range?" Roan asked. Juno checked her screen. It was outside the no-entry zone. Barely. It must have drifted in. Roan took a deep breath. This test was no longer quiet. The alien ship had belonged to the Drine. They were not enemies, but not allies either. If their sensors picked up what happened, it would not stay secret for long. And the Drine would tell others. Still, the test had worked. The Lance was real. The most powerful kinetic weapon ever built by humans or anyone else. Roan turned to the communication officer. "Send a report to Earth. Mark it high priority." The message sent was short, just numbers and graphs. No words like weapon or accident, but the people on Earth who read it would understand. 3 days later, far from the asteroid belt, the Drine received a strange signal from one of their patrol beacons. The message was broken, full of static. It showed a short video clip, only 3 seconds long. The image was clear. A ship cut cleanly in half, floating in space. No fire, no energy trace. Just silence. At first, they thought it was a trick, some kind of pirate attack. But when their scientists studied the signal, they saw something else, something that scared them. A projectile moving faster than any weapon they had ever seen. No engine, no light, just speed. They sent the data to the Yellari, then to the Monthics. Within a week, the three largest alien empires knew what had happened. They did not know how. They did not know where. But they knew one thing. Humans had fired something new, and it worked. Back on the asteroid, Roan stood alone in the viewing bay. He looked out at the stars. He knew the silence would not last. He knew messages were already being sent. Fleets would move. Eyes would turn toward Earth. But he did not feel fear. He felt ready. The lance had spoken, not with words, not with sound, but with silence and power. And the galaxy had heard. 3 days had passed since the lance was fired. The asteroid base remained quiet. No new messages came from Earth. No alien ships appeared near the test zone. But inside the base, no one was relaxed. They all knew something had changed. Commander Roan read the latest report on his screen. The destroyed Drine ship had been a small scout. Not armed, not part of any fleet. Its route had not been shared with human patrols. It had simply passed through deep space, unaware of what was happening nearby. But now it was gone. The Railgun's projectile had cut it apart in seconds. No alarm had sounded. No signal had been sent. The Drine ship had not even had time to react. It had been too fast, too clean, and too powerful. Roan stood in the command room, silent. Behind him, Juno worked with the engineering team. She checked the Railgun's rails for damage, but found none. The machine was ready to fire again if needed. Commander, Juno said. Looking up from her screen, the magnetic coils held up perfectly. We can reload the next projectile. Roan nodded. Do it, but keep it cold. No charge. Not until we hear from Earth. Juno gave the order. The loading crew began moving the second slug, this one heavier than the first. It was shaped like a long dart, designed to fly straight through space with almost no resistance. Outside the asteroid, the stars looked the same, but across the galaxy, everything had changed. Thousands of light years away, in a drying council chamber, the alien leaders studied the footage from the destroyed scout ship. The room was quiet. These leaders did not shout. They did not panic. But their faces were tight with worry. This is not a known weapon, one of them said. No energy signal, another replied. No plasma, no radiation trail, just motion. The scientist in the room pointed at the data on the wall. It moved at 0.1 light speed. That is faster than any Drine ship, faster than any known torpedo. No engine, no fuel burn. Pure kinetic energy. The Drine were an old empire. Careful, wise. They had fought wars before, but they had never seen a weapon like this. Who fired it? One of the elders asked. The answer came slowly. Humans. The word echoed across the chamber. A quiet species. Not weak, but never loud. They were known for trade, mining, and building. Not for war. Not for threats. Now they had fired something that could destroy a moon. The Drine did not move alone. They shared knowledge with the other empires. Within hours, the Yellari Council received the same report. They met in a large glass tower floating above the clouds of their homeworld. The air shimmered with data streams. Their high seer narrowed his eyes. It was not a weapon made to frighten. It was made to end things. The Monthics, deep in the crystal caves of their planet, also studied the footage. They were a proud species, known for their fleets. Their ships had ruled parts of the sky for centuries. But even they were silent as they watched the clip of the Railgun shot. In all corners of the galaxy, one truth became clear. Humans had crossed a line. Back on the asteroid, Roan received a message from Earth. It was short and direct. Report confirmed. Alien empires aware. Begin quiet readiness. Do not fire again unless ordered. Roan read the message 3 times. Quiet readiness. That meant prepare, but stay hidden. Be ready for a response. He turned to his crew. We keep working, he said. No mistakes, no noise. The galaxy is watching now, on Mars. Earth's leaders gathered in an underground station. It was a secret room. built during the first contact years. They had always feared this day might come, the day when humans would have to prove they were not small. The Drine have not responded, one official said. Neither have the Yillari or the Monthics, said another. They are thinking, the prime speaker replied. They are measuring our weight. Let them. Back on the Drine homeworld, the council made a decision. They would send a message to Earth, not a warning, not a threat, a question. The message was translated into Earth language and sent through the official trade channel. It read, "We saw your test. Is this a weapon of war or a tool of peace?" Earth responded carefully. It is a tool of silence. It speaks only when needed. We hope that day never comes. The response was clever. Calm, not weak. The Drine read it many times. So did the Yillari and Monthics. They could see what it meant. The humans had no plan to attack. But if anyone moved against them, this weapon would be used again. And next time. It would not be a test. Across the stars, ship movements changed. Patrol paths shifted. Fleets that were once pointed at each other now paused. Commanders gave quiet orders to study kinetic shields, to find ways to detect fast-moving slugs, to understand what had just happened. But no one had answers yet, because humans had done something no one expected. They had fired a simple weapon with no energy signature and had shaken every throne in the galaxy. Back on the asteroid, Juno stood beside the Railgun. She placed a hand on the metal surface. "Why do you think no one is speaking loudly?" she asked Roan. "Because they are afraid," he said. "They do not know how to answer what they saw. So they wait, and while they wait, we prepare." Juno nodded. "It wasn't really a test, was it?" Roan looked out the window, watching. "The stars." "No," he said. "It never was." Weeks passed after the first Railgun test. On the surface, everything seemed calm across the stars. Trade ships still moved between planets. Space stations continued their daily work. Diplomats smiled and shared kind words. But deep inside the great alien empires, leaders met in secret rooms and quiet chambers. They spoke in whispers. They studied the human weapon again and again. The event was now known across hundreds of systems. The destroyed Drine scout ship had become a warning. It was shown in training halls and command centers. No one had forgotten how it had been sliced. Apart in one silent shot. No fire, no light, no noise. Just force. The Yillari, the oldest of the known empires, met inside a floating tower high above their golden capital. The air was thick with data streams and floating symbols. The council sat in a circle, their heads lowered in thought. The humans were quiet for too long, said the High Reader. We thought them builders and explorers. But now we see their hand. A young voice spoke up. Should we fear them? An elder replied slowly. Fear? No. But ignore? Never again. The Monthics Empire, proud and powerful, gathered its top admirals in a crystal hall under their great mountain range. Their military strength was unmatched until now. They had always believed in control through force. Their fleets were large, fast, and well-trained, but the Railgun was different. It could not be blocked. It could not be outrun. Admiral Tech studied the weapon data with sharp eyes. We have shields that stop energy, he said. We have sensors that track plasma. But this weapon is metal, pure speed. We have nothing to stop it. Another commander asked, do we challenge the humans? Tech shook his head. No, not yet. We watch, we learn, and we wait. The Drine Empire, still recovering from the loss of their scout ship, had already moved ships away from the edge of human space. Their leaders gave no public statement, but their actions were clear. They were giving humans space. On Earth, the news of these movements reached the top command. Mars Command received updates from deep space agents. Small probes near alien borders picked up changes. Roan, now back on Earth for a short time, sat in a quiet meeting room with Earth's space council. A large map of the galaxy floated in the air before them. Red lines marked old fleet paths. Blue dots showed new alien movements. Many fleets had changed direction. Others had stopped completely. The Railgun was seen as a message, said Chairwoman Neva, and now they are listening. "We hold something they do not understand," another council member asked. "Do we make the second firing public?" Roan shook his head. "No, not yet. We must let the silence work." That first shot spoke louder than any words. In orbit around Earth, factories began working on new Railgun parts. 3 more secret bases were started across the solar system. One near Neptune, one deep in the crust of Mars, and one hidden inside a dead comet. The lance would not be the only one. Human engineers were careful. Every design was made to avoid energy trails. No bright signs, only cold power. The projectiles were improved, made with heavier metals and better shape. Each one could destroy a battleship without a single sound. Meanwhile, the alien empires held private talks. The Yllari invited a human ambassador to their moon station. It was the first official meeting since the Railgun test. The ambassador, a calm man named Bren, stood before the Yllari council. He wore a simple Earth uniform with no medals. A Yllari elder asked him directly, "Why build such a weapon?" Bren answered without fear, "To protect peace, not to start war. We know the galaxy is not always safe. We prepare, so we never have to beg." The elder nodded. "And what if someone else fires first? Then the silence will break," said Bren, "and we will respond with what we have." The meeting ended without anger. No threat was made, but a message was sent. Earth would not be pushed anymore. The Monthics held no meeting, but their ships stopped testing weapons near human zones. Their science division began secret work on detecting kinetic movement in space. They tried to understand how humans had launched such a powerful object with no signal. But they failed. The technology was too different, too simple, too human. On the drying world of Nalkar, a young commander named Solus watched the footage of the destroyed scout ship one more time. He studied the clean cut, the smooth path of the projectile. He did not feel hate. He felt respect. "These humans," he said to his aide, "they do not burn stars. They do not bend space. They throw stones faster than light, and that is enough." His words were passed to the drying leaders. One day later, they sent a message to Earth. It read, "We understand your silence. Let it remain unbroken. We offer a place in our next gathering of empires." For the first time, Earth was invited to a table it had never reached before. A table of power back on Earth. Roan stood alone at the edge of the ocean. He looked up. At the stars, somewhere out there, empires were talking about humans. They were planning, watching, waiting. But none of them had moved closer. None of them had dared fire. The lance had not fired again. It had not needed to. Roan knew this was not the end. It was only the start of something bigger. But for now, the balance had shifted. The galaxy no longer looked at humans as a young race now. They saw them as something else. Quiet, strong, and very, very ready. The Railgun had not fired again, but its voice still echoed across the galaxy. Every major empire had changed. Their fleets now moved carefully around human space. Their diplomats used softer tones. Their science division studied Railgun physics. But silence does not last forever. 3 months after the first firing, the Monthics Empire sent a ship toward Mars. Not a warship, but a diplomat carrier. It was painted in white and gold, the traditional colors of peace. Still, the ship's size was a message. It was bigger than any human battle cruiser. It carried no weapons, but its hull was built like a fortress. Inside, the lead diplomat sat quietly in her chamber. Her name was Velen. She had studied humans for years. She had read about their early wars, their slow climb through space, their hunger for knowledge. She respected them, but she had orders. Her task was clear. She was to learn more about the Railgun. If she could not gain blueprints, she was to get details through conversation. If that failed, she would offer a deal. The ship arrived in Mars orbit. It was greeted by 2 Earth ships, small but fast. The Monthics vessel was guided to a peaceful docking station near Mars Base 2. Commander Rome was already waiting. He had returned from Earth to lead this meeting. His presence showed that Earth was taking the visit seriously. Rome stood tall as Velen entered the meeting hall. She was calm, dressed in silver robes. with a translator crystal glowing near her neck. "Welcome to Mars," Roan said. "Thank you, Commander," Velen replied. "It is a rare thing to meet those who change the balance of power." Roan gave a small smile. "We only wish for peace, but we prepare for other things too." They sat across a glass table. No guards, no weapons. Just two minds speaking for their people. Velen wasted no time. "The galaxy has many weapons, but yours is new, simple, silent, powerful. Tell me, why build such a tool?" Roan answered without emotion. "Because we know what happens to those who are not ready. History teaches us that. So we build something not to start war, but to end it quickly if it ever came." Velen nodded slowly. "Many fear what they do not understand. I came not with fear, but with interest. The Monthics offer an exchange, data for data, knowledge for knowledge." Roan looked at her carefully. "And what would you give in return for our secrets?" Velen leaned forward. "We will share star lane maps, fuel upgrades, ship hull designs. We will open trade gates in 5 systems, all in return for one thing, the full design of the weapon you call the Lance." Roan was silent for a long time. Then he spoke. "No." Velen blinked. "That is your answer?" "Yes," Roan said. "We do not trade our defense. Not now. Not ever." Velen did not argue. She stood. "Then I thank you for your time." Roan stood too. "Be careful on your journey home." That same night, back in the hidden base inside the asteroid belt, the Lance was loaded again. The engineers did not speak much. They all understood. If talks failed, silence would have to speak again. In another part of space, something else was happening. A small fleet of Yellari ships had started moving near Saturn. They said they were observing space waves, but Earth's deep-range sensors showed a different pattern. The ships were scanning outer planets, looking for something, or testing reactions. Back on Mars, Roan received a quiet alert. Juno sent the message from the base. Yellari ships moving close to Titan. No response to pings, still outside warning zone. Roan read the message carefully. Then he replied, "Stay quiet. Do not charge the weapon. Not yet." He knew what this was, a test, not of power, but of patience. The alien empires were watching, waiting to see how far humans would allow others to move. It was a game of silence, a line drawn not in words, but in action. Roan sent a private message to Earth Command. He wrote only one line: "Let silence hold, but prepare to speak if needed." The next day, the Yellari ships turned away. They left Titan's orbit and moved back toward neutral space. No shots were fired, no words were exchanged, but the message was clear. Humans had watched them and were ready. The Monthic's diplomat ship left Mars. It moved slower than before. Velen had failed her mission, but she had learned something. She had seen the human face up close, and it was not one of fear or pride. It was one of control. Before she left orbit, she sent one private message to Roan. "You are not what we expected. That may be your greatest strength." Roan read the message and said nothing. The weeks passed. No more alien fleets came near. No more diplomats arrived. The galaxy was still watching, but from a distance now. The silence had held. In the asteroid base, the Lance rested, its rail cooled, its projectile locked in place. Juno stood near the glass panel, looking out at the stars. She spoke to another engineer. "Do you think it will ever fire again?" The engineer shrugged. "Maybe. But if it doesn't, that's still a win." Juno nodded. "Silence is our best shield right now." Far away, on a dry moon station, the commanders reviewed a new report. It showed the same thing all the others had seen. Human space was calm, but every defense system remained online. Every station watched the stars. "They do not sleep," one Drine said. "No," the other replied. "They listen, and they wait." Months had passed since the Monthic's diplomat left Mars. The fragile peace remained, but everyone knew it could break at any moment. The Railgun was a silent shadow over the galaxy now. It changed how wars were fought before they even began. Commander Roan stayed busy. He worked with Earth's Space Command to improve defenses. New sensors were built to watch for fast-moving objects. New ships were designed to be faster and smarter. But the most important project remained the Lance. The asteroid base hummed with activity. Engineers and scientists worked day and night. Juno led the team that kept the Railgun ready. She checked every coil and every rail. She watched every system. One morning, Juno was called to the command room. Rome was waiting. His face was serious. "Juno," he said, "we have new information." Juno leaned forward. "From where?" "From Drine space," Roan said. "Our deep scanners picked up unusual activity near one of their military stations." Juno frowned. "Unusual how?" "Ships moving faster than usual. Transmissions in code we have never heard before." Roan tapped the screen. "It looks like they are preparing something. Maybe a new weapon. Maybe a fleet move." Juno's eyes narrowed. "Could it be a response to us?" "Maybe," Roan said. "Or maybe it is something else. But we cannot ignore it." That night, the asteroid base went into high alert. Security was doubled. Patrols were increased. The Railgun was cleaned and tested again. "Keep everything ready," Roan ordered. "We don't want to be caught by surprise." The human scientists worked fast. They tried to decode the strange transmissions. They used every tool they had. But the messages were complex and layered. It was like trying to read a book with missing pages. Meanwhile, the alien empires watched too. The Drawing Council met in secret. They did not want to admit it publicly, but they were nervous. The humans had shown power they did not expect. Now the Drine feared a war they might not win. The Yellari sent envoys to the Drine. "We must talk," they said. "The humans have changed everything." The Monthics agreed. "We should prepare to meet as one," said Admiral Tech. "Our strength is in unity." On Earth, the Space Council called a special session. Earth's leaders gathered to discuss the rising tension. The galaxy was quiet, but the quiet felt heavy. Chairwoman Neva spoke clearly. "We must not start a war, but we must be ready to end one if it comes." A young council member asked. "What if they attack first?" Roan answered. "Then they will see the silence break." The phrase became a motto. It reminded everyone why the Lance existed. It was not to start war. It was to stop war before it started. Days later, the asteroid base detected something new. A small object moved fast near the edge of the solar system. It was too small to be a ship, too fast to be natural. Juno and Roan watched as the sensors tracked the object. It moved directly toward Earth. "Could it be a missile?" Juno asked. "Possibly," Roan said. "But it is moving differently than any weapon we know." The object slowed down as it reached Mars' orbit. Then, without warning, it stopped. A message was sent from the object. It was a simple signal. One word repeated again and again. "Peace." Roan stared at the screen. "Who sent this?" Juno shook her head. "We don't know, but it is not a threat." The signal was traced back to the Drine Empire. Their leaders had sent a message of peace. The news spread quickly across Earth. People watched in wonder. The galaxy was no longer just a place of fear. It was a place where silence could hold hope. Roan and Juno met in the asteroid base's observation room. They looked out at the stars. "Do you think the Railgun made the difference?" Juno asked. Roan smiled faintly. "Maybe it did. Maybe it reminded them that some battles are not worth fighting." The quiet in the room was deep. Outside, the stars shone brightly. Far away, the alien empires held their own meetings. The Drine, the Yellari, and the Monthics began to talk more openly with Earth. They shared data, knowledge, and sometimes even stories. The Railgun had not fired again. It had not needed to. Its silence spoke louder than any gun. But all knew this peace was fragile. The galaxy was full of unknown dangers. And if the silence ever broke, the human Railgun would be ready. Peace had settled like a soft blanket over the galaxy. But beneath it, tension still brewed. The Railgun's silence held strong. But everyone knew it was only a matter of time before the comm faced a true test. Commander Roan stayed vigilant. His days were filled with briefings, strategy meetings, and planning sessions. Earth's leaders trusted him. They knew that while the Railgun was a powerful symbol, it was the people behind it who truly held the fate of humanity's future. 1. Warning: An urgent message arrived from the outer system scanners. The dry military station, the very one that had sent the message of peace months before, was now surrounded by unknown ships. Their design was unlike anything seen before. Sleek, black, and silent. Roan and Juno studied the reports carefully. The new ships carried no visible weapons, but their movement suggested preparation. They moved with the precision of a storm about to break. "This is not the Drine," Juno said softly. "They would never hide like this." Roan nodded. "Something else is coming. Something no one expected." The Space Council called an emergency meeting. Alien envoys were present, their faces tense. The Yellari elders spoke first. "This fleet is unknown to us. They have never appeared before in any records. It is a new threat," the Monthic's admiral added. "Their ships do not communicate. They do not respond to signals. They come like shadows." Roan's voice was steady. "If this fleet is hostile, we must be ready. The Railgun is our warning. But now, we may need more than silence back on Earth." Scientists raced to improve the Lance. Engineers worked on faster reload systems and new projectiles. They trained crews for long shifts. Every detail mattered. Juno spent hours in simulations, imagining what a real battle might be like. She thought of the quiet power of the Railgun. It was a weapon of precision and patience. It did not shout. It whispered destruction. News of the unknown fleet reached all corners of human space. Colonies prepared defenses. Pilots practiced maneuvers. Ships were repaired and upgraded. Roan visited one of the forward bases near Jupiter. He met soldiers and engineers, sharing hope and determination. "We fight not to conquer, but to protect." The Railgun reminds us what we stand for. At the same time, a small human scout ship approached the edge of the unknown fleet. It sent peaceful signals but received no reply. Juno watched the scout's data feed. Suddenly, the black ships shifted formation. They moved toward the scout slowly. Their intent was unclear. Roan made a decision. "Recall the scout. We cannot risk the unknown." The scout turned back, but the message was clear. The unknown fleet was watching. Days passed in silence, but tension grew. The galaxy waited, breath held tight. Then, unexpectedly, the unknown fleet sent a signal. It was not a language. It was a pattern, a series of pulses, strong and clear. The Yellari and Monthics tried to decode it. The Drine tried to. Earth's best minds joined the effort. Finally, Juno found the key. The pulses were a challenge, a call to meet. Roan prepared a response. "We will meet, but not in weakness. We will meet as equals." The unknown fleet moved toward the neutral zone, a place chosen for peace talks long ago, now a symbol of hope. As their ships approached, the galaxy held its breath. The new ships opened their communication channels. A voice, unlike any heard before, spoke slowly in a simple tone. "We come not to conquer. We come to ask." The alien empires leaned forward, listening carefully. The voice continued. "Why do you hold a weapon that can destroy so quietly? Why do you prepare for war when peace is possible?" Roan stood tall. "Because silence is a choice. It is a promise that if peace fails, we will protect what matters." The voice replied, "We wish to learn this silence. We wish to understand your strength." The meeting lasted hours. Questions were asked, answers given. The unknown fleet revealed they were travelers, explorers who had lost contact with the rest of the galaxy. They had heard rumors of Earth's Railgun and came to see for themselves. Slowly, trust began to grow. The unknown fleet shared their stories of distant worlds and lost friends. Earth shared its hopes and fears. By the time the talks ended, the galaxy had changed again. New alliances formed, old fears eased. Roan looked up at the stars that night. The Railgun rested quietly in its base. It had not fired again, but its presence had shaped the future. Juno stood beside him. "Do you think the silence will last?" Roan smiled. "It must, because in silence there is strength, and in strength there is hope." The galaxy watched and waited, knowing that no matter what came next, humanity was ready. The galaxy had changed more than anyone expected. What started with the firing of a single human Railgun had grown into a new era of uneasy peace. The alien empires no longer moved blindly toward war. They moved carefully, watching, learning, and sometimes even cooperating. Commander Roan stood on the observation deck of the asteroid base. He looked out at the stars, calm and bright like millions of tiny fires burning in the dark. Beside him, Juno was checking reports on her tablet. Their minds were busy, but their hearts held a quiet hope. "Do you think this peace will last?" Juno asked, her voice soft. Roan smiled gently. "Peace is never easy, but I believe it will last as long as we remember why we fight and why we hold back." Juno nodded. The Railgun taught everyone that power is not just about destruction. It's about control, about knowing when to act and when to wait. The lessons were clear. The Railgun, called the Lance, was more than a weapon. It was a symbol, a reminder that humans were different. They did not rush to battle. They prepared carefully, striking only when needed, and always with precision. The unknown fleet had stayed near the neutral zone for weeks. Their leaders met with human officials, sharing stories, technology, and plans for the future. They promised to help watch the borders, to report any threats early, and to work together for peace. The Drine, Yellari, and Monthix had also grown closer to Earth. Old rivalries began to fade. Trade routes reopened. Science teams exchanged discoveries. The galaxy was quiet, but in that quiet, a new strength grew. One day, Earth received a message from a distant star system. It was a call for help. A colony had lost contact with the rest of human space. Communications were silent. Ships sent to investigate found strange signals and signs of damage. Roan and Juno prepared a rescue mission. The Railgun was ready, but this was not a time for force. It was a time for hope. The rescue fleet traveled fast through space. When they arrived, they found the colony under threat from a powerful natural storm unlike anything recorded before. The storm disrupted communications and damaged equipment. The humans worked quickly. Engineers repaired systems. Scientists studied the storm. The fleet stayed nearby to protect the colony from other dangers. For days, the rescue mission fought against nature, not against enemies. The challenge was great, but the crew never lost hope. Their determination reminded everyone of why humans were different. After the storm passed, communications returned. The colony was safe. Back on Earth, the news brought relief and pride. The rescue had shown that humans were not only strong in war, but strong in care. Roan spoke to the Space Council. "We must remember that power without purpose is empty." The Railgun's silence is not just a weapon's pause. It is the space where peace grows. Juno smiled. "And when the time comes to act, we will act with the same strength and wisdom." The galaxy watched as Earth led new efforts for cooperation. Shared technology helped colonies grow. New star lanes opened for peaceful travel. Alien diplomats visited Earth often, building friendships and understanding. The Railgun remained silent, but always ready, its coils cooled by the steady work of engineers. Its projectile locked, a quiet promise in the dark. One evening, Roan and Juno stood together watching the stars. "Do you think other civilizations will ever have a weapon like the Lance?" Juno asked. Roan thought for a moment. "Maybe. But it is not the weapon that makes us who we are. It is how we choose to use it." Juno nodded. "That is the real power." The stars twinkled above, holding secrets and stories yet to be told. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but humans had learned to face it with patience and strength. The future was still unknown, but with silence as their shield and hope as their guide, humanity was ready. And so, the first human Railgun, the Lance, rested quietly, its legacy growing with every moment of peace it helped protect. The end.